National Security Minister responding to two very recent controversies, BPL fighting back against the FDI report, and another MP joins the bid for FNM Leadership. Good evening, everyone. I'm Tyler Simonet with your JCN News for this Tuesday, October 26. National Security Minister Wayne Munro troubled about a situation where a woman was sexually assaulted by a male suspect after police at the East Street South station placed them in the same cell. We understand that police brought the 25-year-old woman to the station on a traffic warrant, and the suspect, 32-year-old Ryan Bodie, was brought in for threats of death and causing damage. Bodie reportedly masturbated and threatened to rape the woman and give her AIDS. Now, Minister Munro told reporters that his issue is with existing police policy.
A female was in a cell, from what we gather, and was sleeping with a blanket. One would think that there's a detention record for her in her name, and unless she has a name that appears to be a man's name, it should have been clear that there's a female in custody. How you get to put a male in a cell with a female, I would like to hear that explanation. And then I know from practice that when you're in custody, there's a detention record where the police are supposed to check on you periodically over the night. I'd like to see the detention record to see if this officer has recorded time and time again that he checked on these two prisoners and they had no complaints. If that has occurred, then that would be another problem that the officer has to explain.
He adds that the system will hold whoever is responsible to account.
Firstly, it is astounding that it could happen. And secondly, if as a detention officer, he is not honest in what he writes on the detention record, that is even more problematic. And so none of us have any issues, any interest in defending or protecting slack people.
Bodie pleaded guilty to indecent assault, and sentencing was suspended to make time for psychological assessment. He was remanded to prison until December 14th. Meantime, the National Security Minister also urging the public to file formal complaints with the Police Complaints and Corruption Unit instead of expressing their outrage on social media. His comments follow a video viewed by our news team allegedly of an off-duty police officer physically assaulting a young woman over the weekend.
Something can be on video. You have to have a complaint. You have to first validate the video. You have to make sure it's not photoshopped. Somebody has to come in and make a complaint, because just as citizens are entitled to due process, police officers are entitled to due process. Once the complaint is made, once the material is bought, then the system will be engaged to deal with the police officer just as it's engaged to deal with the citizen.
Now, in the video, the alleged officer can be heard attempting to confiscate the phone of the individual filming the incident. In light of that, Minister Munro sought to clarify a few things.
I would say to the public that no honest police officer would be concerned to cover up wrongdoing. I have advised previously, as has Chief Superintendent Lockhart, that the police have no right to take your cell phone. I've advised persons who have CCTV systems that if they fear that their DVRs will be taken, they ought to arrange recording off-site. Once you have the material to show that there has been misfeasance, malfeasance by the police officers in any regard, you should make a complaint to Complaints and Corruption, and if it rises to the level of criminality, you should make a criminal complaint.
The video, originally posted on Facebook, sparked public outrage on Monday. It's alleged that an officer by the name of Inspector Saunders accosted a 19-year-old woman and her boyfriend at a nightclub off Delancey Street on Saturday night. That video now has 95 comments and 247 shares, all from peeved citizens demanding something be done to tackle police brutality in the country. Bahamas Power and Light responding to media reports coming out of that BPL investigation and subsequent report submitted to the Office of the Prime Minister from US-based firm FTI Consulting. On Monday, JCN News and Eyewitness News reported that purchase orders to the tune of tens of millions of dollars were missing documentation and key signatures, as found in FTI's investigation. It was under the Minnis administration that FDI was hired to conduct an investigation off the heels of the termination of BPL's board back in 2018. The consulting firm also conducted an audit of the power giant. Well, BPL in a statement on Monday evening refuting claims that there were no documentations for those purchase orders, as indicated in FDI's report. The statement from BPL's Director of Public Relations, Quincy Parker, notes that BPL has taken exception to the erroneous assertion that a $1.3 million purchase order was signed by board chairman Dr. Donovan Moxey without reflecting approval of the wider board of directors. And while BPL asserts that it has yet to see a copy of the FDI report, it says, in fact, FDI Consulting was giving a sample of 55 POs, including the $1.3 million PO, which is for Mitsubishi Hitachi Power, the original equipment manufacturer for its generator maintenance, as part of winter maintenance. The PO was dated March 19, 2020, and was approved by the board of directors on the same date as part of the annual budget that covered maintenance expenditures. This, according to BPL, was clearly communicated to FDI Consulting. Further, on October 13th of last year, BPL internal audit authorized by the board and chief executive officer of BPL provided documents to FDI showing that the required documents, including the purchase requisition, the purchase order, and the approved signature documents, were present. Mr. Parker contends that BPL's internal audit department did not participate in the FDI audit process. The only role it played was to release information authorized by the board of directors and chief executive officer. It also provided guidance to FDI Consulting regarding locating any missing contracts. Immigration and Labor Minister Keith Bell giving an update to reports on apprehensions of illegal migrants in Bahamian waters in recent days. The minister confirming with the media that there were 2 interceptions recently. One of the interceptions included 28 Cuban migrants. However, the second one was the most interesting, he says, of 44 illegal migrants on several different yachts.
What we have seen is that there was one Bahamian male who was the suspected smuggler, 10 Colombian adult males, 2 Colombian adult females, 3 Ecuadorian males accompanied by a minor, or a minor accompanies one with his father, 5 Ecuadorian adult females, 5 Haitian adult males, 6 Haitian females, 1 being 6 months pregnant and 2 accompanied with their minor children, 5 Jamaican adult males, 6 Romanian adult males, 1 Romanian adult male, and 1 Turkish adult male.
Just before the weekly cabinet meeting on Tuesday morning, the minister said this is an issue of concern. The government, along with branches of the armed forces, are working together to investigate the matter thoroughly as to ensure that there is swift prosecution. Meantime, he notes that the Bahamian male, along with the migrants, are expected to go before the court sometime this week.
What we have seen is that there was one Bahamian male who was the suspected smuggler, 10 Colombian adult males, 2 Colombian adult females, 3 Ecuadorian males accompanied by a minor, or a minor accompanies one with his father, 5 Ecuadorian adult females, 5 Haitian adult males, 6 Haitian females, 1 being 6 months pregnant and 2 accompanied with their minor children, 5 Jamaican adult males, 6 Romanian adult males, 1 Romanian adult male, and 1 Turkish adult male.
Member of Parliament for East Grand Bahama Kwesi Thompson throwing his hat in the leadership race for the Free National Movement. This much coming from a statement released by Mr. Thompson this afternoon. The former Minister of State for Finance says that though at times the FNM has fallen short and that they could have paid more attention to public sentiment. However, their mission is to return to government to build on their accomplishments, and they must do so with greater humility, compassion, and openness. In his statement, Mr. Thompson outlines several things he wishes to see happen with the party, such as fostering unity, having greater transparency and openness, being more service-orientated, and being more inclusive. Mr. Thompson also put great emphasis on education and training, urging that there must be more education about parliamentary democracy, the Bahamas Constitution, cabinet government and general civics, as well as the constitution of the FNM party. Mr. Thompson is one of the 7 elected to the House of Assembly for the FNM. He has served as the president of the Torchbearers, as a member of Parliament, as Deputy Speaker in the House of Assembly, a Senator, and Cabinet Minister. The leadership race will be held at the FNM's convention on November 27th. What we can tell you is that Central Grand Bahama MP Iram Lewis is also vying for the leadership position of the FNM, while current opposition leader and former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis will not be offering his name. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.